On this week's episode, we talk about therapy Spanx, focusing on your own path, and we answer your dating questions. Welcome to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast. I'm your host, Matchmaker Maria, and this week's guest is Cara Alwill. Woo. Okay, she's a New York City-based creative entrepreneur. She encourages women to find their light, be the best version of themselves. She created the Champagne Diet blog. Big fan, Cara. And also she has the podcast Style Your Mind, and she wrote the worldwide sensation Girl Code book. Cara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited to have you here. So before we got started, we started talking about Spanx. And I feel like we need to have this conversation recorded because relatable.
Yep.
You have a Spanx story.
I do. It's a good one.
Let me hear it, because I got a few too.
Okay. So I had just met this guy, and we had gone on a couple of dates. And every time that we were together, he stayed at my apartment. So we went on this date one night, and it was like a little bit chilly out, spring, and I had this slip dress on. And I was like, okay, I can go two ways with this slip dress. One, like nothing under it, or two, the Spanx under it. And I was like, well, felt a little bit like bloated that day. I was like, I need the Spanx. It's chilly out. Let me just go for it. Thinking he's going to come back to my house afterward. I can get this Spanx off in the bathroom, come out all sexy, like before we go to bed.
Can I ask you a question about that? When you do that, would you like quickly loofah down there to get rid of like the Spanx sweat, or are you coming out after? Have you never thought about this?
No. I mean, I'm probably too drunk to think about this when I'm having sex. No, I'm just kidding.
This is how I discovered it. I was drunk and I came home with a guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's like Spanx sweat. Let me take it off. And then I like
I do bird bath. Like we always bird bath right before sex. You know what that is?
No.
You do like a little quick rinse.
Okay.
Like down there. So like I would have bird bathed anyway before I like
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I was like,
yeah.
Loofah, water, let's
totally.
go. Yeah,
totally.
Okay. So we have the same routine. Okay.
So this was like new in like the relationship, whatever call it, dating situation.
He hasn't seen you that you're.
Well, he didn't know I wore Spanx. Like I wasn't going to advertise it. We had been on like 2 weeks. He knows now. He knows he read the blog. He was dying laughing. But I was trying to be sexy at this point still and mysterious, right? Like my grandmother would always be like, never let a man see you get dressed. Let him see you get undressed. Don't let him see you get dressed.
God,
and it's
grandmothers give terrible advice.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God. Okay.
Well, this is going to lead into the next thing. So he was like, do you want to stay at my place tonight? And I was like, can we just go to my place? He's like, come on, you've never stayed here before. So I'm like, sure. So I get the clothes off and I roll up my dress in the Spanx and I put it in the corner near my purse because he was in the bathroom. So I like undressed. I had no pajamas. So I slipped under the bed, right under the covers. I was naked. Fine. Everything's great. We have sex. Wake up in the morning and there's like streaming sunlight coming in his bedroom. It's like bright as can be. He's sleeping next to me, but he's like half awake. And I'm like, I have to wake up now and put this whole thing back on so I can walk home and have like my walk of shame, right?
No.
So I'm like, how the fuck, can I curse?
Yes.
How the fuck am I going to sausage myself back into a pair of Spanx at 8 o'clock in the morning that, let's just be real, they were nude Spanx and it was like the bodysuit with the biker shorts.
That's like the worst.
Looks like a post-op compression garment. It looks like I just had surgery. So I'm like thinking to myself, like, how am I going to do this without him noticing? So then I remember he wears contacts, and when he doesn't have them in, he can't see anything. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can do this while he's kind of like half awake and he can't really see and he's like sort of half blind. But then I'm like, no, he can just grab his glasses off the nightstand. So I decide to roll up his Spanx when he's in the bathroom and shove them in my purse and just put the dress on, right? So as I'm doing this, he comes walking into the room with his glasses on, and I have a pair of Spanx, which it's on a thong. It's a huge thing, and it's rolled up. And he's talking to me like a normal human being in the morning. He's like, morning, how'd you sleep? But I have this huge Spanx in my fucking hand. Then I go into the kitchen, and I try to shove them into like my little sparkly cute Prada purse. That was a great idea the night before. They don't fit. So now the Spanx is exploding out of my Prada. He's trying to talk to me. I'm mortified.
Is this before or after Uber?
Well, I live down the block from him.
Oh, okay. All right.
So couldn't really Uber.
You threw it out, didn't you?
Yeah, I walked in my apartment and I fucking threw the Spanx in the garbage.
Those are $50.
I had to. I mean, it was horrific. I swore that I'd never wear them again. And then I did, of course.
So you got to get the Spanx that I get, which have been discontinued. So when they got discontinued,
You stocked up.
They discontinued the week before my wedding. And instead of messaging people like, oh, are you coming? Like getting the last minute hours of peace. Instead, I was text messaging anyone I knew in different countries. Like, can you order this for me? I need 4.
I always say everything I love gets discontinued, dies, or is emotionally unavailable.
The Spanx that I have, I know why they got discontinued, because when you pull on them too hard, they rip. Because they're the thin ones. Those are the ones that do fit in the little.
Yeah, not these.
No.
So anyway,
I got a Spanx story for you.
Tell me.
I've got 2. I was at my bachelorette party in Athens, and I don't know how I swung it, but I got myself on the stage with the most popular singer in Greece, Sakis Ouvas. I love you. And this is a big deal. Google him. Okay. Anyway, and I managed to get myself on the stage. Like, I kept like looking at him and like, and at some point I was like, and he's like, he does the internet Greek sign of yes, which is, and I just like swung myself up on the stage, got up there. And then just as I'm about to kiss him on the cheek, the air vents from the bottom just go.
You had a Marilyn moment?
Yeah. And my dress went up.
Oh, my God.
There's like 2,000 people here. Everyone got to see the Spanx.
At least you had the Spanx on, though. Could have been bare ass.
Yes, it could have been bare ass. That was fun, though. And my second Spanx story, which I'll probably post a photo about this on my Instagram when this episode posts. And if you have a photo, I want to see that photo too from your story, is this past summer, I was listening to a podcast that I enjoy that actually mentioned me. They were talking about like Matchmaker Maria's green theory, whatever. And in that podcast episode, the person that they were interviewing, she was a stylist. And she was saying that she's very thin. And this is no thin hate. She just happens to be thin.
Right.
All right. It's just an adjective. But she was saying something about how like, and don't quote me on this, but something along the lines of like, I don't know, why do you need to wear Spanx every day? Like, I wear Spanx to like the thighs. I don't want them to rub. And also I've got loose skin, giving birth. I don't want
Kim Kardashian wears Spanx. It's not a shameful thing.
Right.
They accentuate your body.
Right. And she says like, if you need to wear Spanx every day, especially to a first date, you might need therapy. So all summer, every time I was out with friends and we were all wearing Spanx, I would take photos of us lifting our dresses saying #therapy Spanx. I haven't posted any of these photos, but I will post them now.
Post them.
Now we have a Spanx story.
That's the new word, therapy Spanx.
Okay, so
trademark it.
Therapy Spanx. Yes, I can't trademark Spanx because that's their own word. Oh, yeah. All right. So tell me a little bit more about, when you started, you like in the Champagne blog and in Girl Code and on your podcast, you're constantly talking to women about empowering them and giving them these practical steps to get to where they need to go. Where does that come from?
So I think for me, I went through like, I guess you can call it a quarter life crisis, right? I was in my 20s. I was working in a full-time job, hated it. I was in advertising. I was at MTV. So it was a cool job, but it wasn't my passion.
Okay.
Right. So I was like chained to a cubicle, like making really good money, hearing everyone tell me like, you have this like great deal, like don't leave. Like, but I wasn't creative and I loved being creative. I wanted to be a writer from the time that I was a little girl. So I decided that I was going to change my life and make changes. I left a toxic relationship. I started writing more. I just started like completely like changing everything. And I had never read a personal development book. And I read The Secret. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually doing what they say to do in this book. Like I'm manifesting the life that I want. So I became like obsessed with personal development, started reading. I went to coaching school. I became a certified master life coach. And I just was like, giving people advice. And I'm like, I can turn this into a business. Like I got my shit together. I can help other people get their shit together. So I launched a coaching practice and I built this like whole side hustle for 6 out of the 8 years that I was at MTV. I did that. And then in 20
you were doing that
on the side.
I did not realize that.
Publishing
That's awesome.
books, coaching at night on the weekends. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Newly married at the time. So when people tell me they don't have time to like pursue their passion, I'm like, yes, you do. Just make it.
Yes. So like what kind of advice would you give to someone who's listening right now that's like, I need to make changes? That is very overwhelming to think about. Mm-hmm. What is the first 3 steps to start making a change? Be it dating, job, friend, location?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first step is just to visualize what you want, get that clarity, like crystal clear clarity. Because if you don't know what you want, you can't move towards the goal. And then start small and keep yourself accountable. So pick one thing that you're going to do and that you're going to change. You can't change everything overnight. And then find somebody like a coach or a mentor or a friend or somebody that can check in with you. And you can be like, hey, like I stuck to my goal this week. Like just, it sounds so like cliche, but just like start small.
I love that. do you find that, you mentioned before that you were married.
Mm-hmm.
You no longer are. You've
Mm-hmm.
talked about this
Yep.
on your podcast and on your blog.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't think divorce is necessarily a bad thing.
I don't think so at all.
I think it just means it's transition. How did that change come about for you then? Because that's like another big transition, right?
Yeah. So I was married for 10 years, almost 10 years. And we were just great friends towards the end. Like there was no like romance left, and we tried and it just wasn't working. I always say like there was nothing wrong. You know, we didn't fight. Nobody cheated. There was no drama.
Excellent roommates.
We did. And like neither one of us were happy. So I was the one that initiated my divorce. And I think it was the best thing for the both of us because we're still really good friends. But it was definitely a transition. And I have the best timing of all. I asked for my divorce in January of 2020, having no idea that COVID was around the corner. I just knew I was turning 40. And I was like, I can't go on in a marriage that doesn't feel like a relationship anymore. You know, I had to be really honest with myself and with him, and he agreed. Of course, we still had so much love for each other, but it wasn't what we wanted.
Did you move out right away, or
he
were you
moved
stuck
out
in the pandemic together?
No, he moved out 2 weeks later.
Okay, so at least you didn't do lockdown together.
No, we didn't. But he was really good. He like came and like brought me supplies that he had been like hoarding. Like when the shit really hit the fan, like I didn't know. Like I was like in denial.
Nobody knew.
No, but he's really good. He's like a planner. So he like, it was really sweet. He like walked over, I think it was like the Williamsburg Bridge with like a little grandma cart and brought me like bleach and like paper towels, like totally hooked me up. Like, yeah.
Hand sanitizer?
Yeah, all the things.
Did he like sew some masks for you too?
No, he brought me some masks though.
That's cute.
So, yeah.
No, you mentioned January 2020.
Yeah.
If you had waited 3 months, do you think you would have divorced, or do you think that sort of trauma that we were all collectively going through would have kept you in for another year?
I think I would have stayed. Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Do you think that, do you find in your experience that I find like professionally that people will some people, not all people, will stay in situations that they shouldn't be in for far too long because of like expectations from the people around them. And I think just that, it's just not just like in relationships, even like at work, like you decide to do a side hustle. I know what that feels like too as a fellow entrepreneur, that like, what are people going to think? How do you tell people like to not think about other people and just focus on your own path?
You know, I think I'm like very aware of my mortality, like everyone's mortality. And I know it sounds really morbid to think about that, but I've lost people in my life. I've lost people. I just had a friend who passed away who was 51. So like I look at that and I'm like, this is my life. Like I call the shots. So why would I live for somebody else when I know that it could like all be done tomorrow? Like, don't I want to like get the most out of every single day? So I've never had that problem where I like hesitated on anything, because I've just known like how like quickly your life goes by. So I tell people to like think about that. You know, do you want to reach the end of your life and feel like you didn't do the things that you want to do? I don't want to feel that way.
I don't. I think about, when you say that, I think about like all these questions that I get from people who are like, oh, I like them, but I don't know if my parents are going to like them, or I don't think their parents like me.
Well, you know what? Your parents are going to be dead one day, and so are theirs. And I hate to sound like a bitch, but that's just the truth. So what do you want to do? Just like live for somebody else forever?
They might not even live near you.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it happens. I had a guy break up with me because his stepmother hated me.
It's not a secret. My in-laws did not like, my mother-in-law did not like me for years.
Yeah.
And then one day, I don't know, it's like switch flipped. Maybe the pandemic kind of pushed her along, and she was like, okay, I like you now.
Yeah.
She said, I love you, actually.
Wow. That's big.
She said it to me once last summer. She didn't say it this year though. I know she does though, because
well,
like,
we still got a few more months, so maybe you'll get something for Christmas.
I don't know. You know what? I think she's just, I think my in-laws are just, they're very different than my parents. My parents are very like warm and gooey with love.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to tell me 5 times a day, otherwise they like cannot function. Like this is the oxygen they breathe.
Yeah.
Like they have to tell me, my sister, I love you. And I think my in-laws, we belong to the same culture. I just think my in-laws are a little bit more, like they'll say it, but it's like more closed.
Yeah.
Like you get it like twice a year.
Well, that's the thing too, right? You can't take it personally, even if they don't like you.
It took me 7 years though to learn not to take it personally.
Really?
Yeah, because I used to always think my mother-in-law or my in-laws didn't like me because they kept calling me a foreigner because I'm not from the same island as them.
Oh, wow.
It's a whole drama. I'm from a different island. It's stupid. Anyway, and I used to take it really personally. But then I noticed that with my husband's brother-in-law, our brother-in-law rather, he's from the same neighborhood, and they had something to say about him too. So I was like, oh, they just have very high standards for their kids. And I think me and Nick, we like jump those standards, but you know, they got it eventually. Like once they saw what kind of parents we are, and that we're like,
and you weren't going anywhere.
We're not going anywhere. Right. Yeah. Like everyone's good here. Then they were like, oh, okay, we love you. Okay. Now we love it. It's like, all right, that took 10 years, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, on this episode, it's a hotline episode. So how do you feel about answering some questions from listeners?
Love it.
I love it.
Hi, Matchmaker Maria. Thanks for taking my question. My name is Sharon, and here is my question. What does one do or say after a cup of coffee with a person, and then that person begins like daily texting? Good morning in the first thing in the morning, and how was your day at the end of the day? And all I wanted was to have a cup of coffee, and then a second cup of coffee in a few days. But I don't want to set up that expectation of daily texting with this person yet. In my situation, I canceled the second cup of coffee, and that was the end of that, because I didn't actually know how to handle it or what to say.
Well, I think every girl's dream is daily texting. So she actually kind of had a good situation. But I get it. I totally get it.
I get what she's saying.
Communication's different for everybody. I think it can just be one of those things where you hope the person gets the hint if maybe you wait a little bit before responding and you're not always available. But if not, I believe in honesty when it comes to dating people. Like I believe, and I'm assuming this is a date, right?
Yeah.
I believe in just being upfront and letting people know, like, hey, like, I'm not really a huge texter. I'd love to talk to you in a couple days and like see you on Saturday, maybe for another coffee.
See, you already did the coffee date, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is now the second date should always be an activity date.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I like dinner for the second date. I like a drink first. I know I do it all wrong. We'll talk about that. I like sex or no, I'm kidding.
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why, though, okay? Hear me out. The second date, and it doesn't have to be like let's go axe throwing. It could just be a walk and some gelato.
Mm-hmm.
But like a second date, you need to like infuse the dopamine in there, right? Because that's what's going to create like the sexual attraction, the sexual tension, like all that stuff, right? I'm not saying go have sex, by the way. I'm saying your second date should be an activity. Like I have one of my clients, he went on this incredible first date on Tuesday, and he has a second date coming up this weekend. And I called him on my way to this recording, and I was like, hey, where's your second date going to be? And he's like, we're actually going to Orange Theory, and then we're going to grab dinner after. And I was like, that is genius. Like I think they're going like some spinning class or something.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's genius.
Bold.
That is bold. But also like, that's kind of hot.
Yeah, because you're going to like work up your endorphins and feel like probably kind of horny after the class.
If that were me, I would be feeling tingly all over knowing a guy's about to see me in like Lycra.
Right. Yeah.
Speaking of Spanx.
Right. Totally.
So it's like, this is sexy.
It is sexy. It's foreplay.
It's foreplay.
Yeah.
It's total
for
foreplay.
athletic people.
And you get like sweaty.
It's foreplay for athletic people.
Right.
I just want to get taken out to dinner. But you know what?
Could be dinner after the
I get it.
After.
Totally.
Yeah. You
totally.
could go for your walk. I'm just saying, go for your walk to dinner. Like, don't meet for dinner. Right?
I agree with the walking thing.
Yeah.
I've had guys take me on like
amazing.
walking dates and like we stop and have a drink. Like it's nice.
Yeah.
Because you can talk and you're not in like a loud bar. You're not drunk yet where people just, everybody looks attractive.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right? So she went on a coffee date first. And then just to like kind of reiterate what she said. So she went on a coffee date first, and then they had set up another coffee date, which we've already talked about. We're not going to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But then she talked about how he's messaging hello, good night. Like I know what that feeling, like even if you don't like texting, if you're not expecting that sort of communication, it's kind of like, for whatever reason, I have this visual, and it's probably not an accurate visual, but like, you know, when someone goes fishing, I don't go fishing, but when someone goes fishing and there's like the bait just kind of bobbing, and I'm just thinking about like, what does this man want from her that he keeps texting her hello, hi, good night?
I think he's doing, and like, listen, I will say in defense of the guy, a lot of girls complain because they feel like men don't communicate enough, right? And women like to hear good morning or good night, not right away necessarily, but maybe somebody told him to do that. So maybe he feels like he's doing the right thing and he's actually turning her off. I don't need that the next day for sure. But I think after like the second date, I think like daily communication, something. Send me a funny meme.
I also I
like,
100% agree with you. I think she should have just nipped in the butt. Just be like, listen, I'm not really a good texter.
Yeah.
But I can't wait for our coffee date in 3
Exactly.
days. And then it's like, oh, you set your boundaries.
Totally. Communication is everything. I'm like, I've gotten to a point now with dating where I say it like it is. Like, I don't play the games. I don't like, if I want something, I ask for it. If I don't like something, I tell him, no, I don't like this.
So tell me, like right now when you're dating, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you establish boundaries? Or like what you want from them? What do you say?
I don't really say what I want because I don't always know what I want.
Okay.
So I'll be honest about
that's
that.
Fair.
Yeah. Like, I'm not looking to get married again. I am not trying to like
that's
have a baby.
That you know that you want then.
Yeah. Like, so, but I mean, I would. Like, I'm open to it. I think if
Okay.
I fell in love and somebody really wanted that and it was important to them, I'd be open.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not husband hunting. And there's a big difference between women who are not husband hunting and women who are dating, but not necessarily just casually dating. Like, I want a relationship.
Right.
But I also think it's a little bit much when women say that on the first date. I think it scares men because I've had guys say it to me and it scares me.
What?
Like,
they say that to you?
That they're looking for something serious or if they want to get married. And I'm like,
how do you see, like, I don't, that's so like inappropriate on a first date.
Totally.
Like I'm a matchmaker, right? I set up clients. Like, clearly this person would like to, they would never have paid my fees if they're not thinking about getting married sometime in the next 18 to 24 months.
Right.
But my client would never say on a date, I'm here to find a wife.
Right.
Like, that's the given. That's dating. Like, well, maybe that turns into that, right? Like societal norms, right?
Yeah.
But it's not necessary because you're kind of giving, it's kind of like when women tell me, I swipe right on guys who say, you know, they don't know, or I'll get women who say, like they'll ask me on Wednesdays, you know, on his online dating profile, it says he's looking for a long-term relationship. But then when we went on a date, after a few dates, he said, I don't think this is it. He's lying on his profile. And I'm like, he's not lying. He went on a date with you.
Yeah. He might not feel it.
Yeah. That's dating.
Yeah. Dating is, I have said this to people because I never dated. Like, I had 2 long-term relationships back to back. So I had a 7-year relationship. I had like a year off where I dated somebody for like 7 months out of that year. And then I met my ex-husband and I was with him for 11 years. So I started dating at 40, which is so wild. But dating is a lot of rejection. So you really need to have a thick skin and learn how to not take everything so personally, because I don't think if you're not confident, like that could completely shut you down and make you never want to leave the house again. You know, like sleeping with someone and then they text you that they didn't feel a romantic vibe. Like, what are you supposed to think about yourself after something like that? Like, I've heard it all, you know, my friends have heard it all. We share stories. So you kind of just have to go into it with like take everything with a grain of salt. And if something works, it works. But you can't get so serious and locked into every single like piece of feedback that you get from a guy.
Yes. That should be put on a shirt.
Yeah.
Cara, open up that merch store.
Merch.
Let's go. Let's get our next question.
Hi, Maria. My name's Victoria, and I'm 36 years old. Here's my question for you. I'm dating this guy almost 6 months, and we get along great, except for when we're on the phone late at night and something happens, we're talking about it, and then it goes haywire. It's nitpicking, it's going back and forth, and I'm just really not sure. Are we being too picky? He doesn't think it's an issue. I don't like being talked to a specific way, and we'll talk about it, and then it happens again, and I'm trying to figure out how do we break this cycle. Thanks so much.
It's a tough one. I mean,
I want to know what his parents are like.
Right.
Because we replicate what we see growing up. Like, I saw this over the summer. I met this couple and like they were bickering. Well, one of them was bickering.
Yeah.
And then like I just happened to ask him about his parents and they're like, "Oh yeah, my parents bicker all day." And I'm like, "How does that make you feel, dude? Like, you realize you're doing that to your girlfriend like in front of us?" Like, you know, and he's like, "Oh, I never thought of that." And I was like, "Okay." And I feel like that, like, this person that called, and thank you for the call, it's like my immediate reaction is like, first of all, half of these nitpicks, it's almost always projection.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, what are you replicating?
Yeah, and I also feel like you can't change somebody's personality. So if you're seeing this early on, like, it's probably not a match. I would just move on.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good.
No, I dated a guy once, 2021. It was like a year after my divorce, and he was so negative. And he was a nice guy, but he was always negative. Like everything was a complaint. Like he was just, that's like the complete opposite of me. So
Right.
I just knew, like I knew in my gut, I saw the red flag. He was like a chain smoker. He was always stressed out about everything. And we wound up breaking up. But I wasted 7 months with this guy knowing that he was not going to change. I could not magically influence him to be like a super happy, positive person. And I wish I would have just left earlier because it wasted time. But
Yeah, and I think we also have to separate like someone's dating personality can be a lot of fun, and someone's sex can be really great. But there's also that lounging around personality that you also have to get along with, because that's the personality you're going to live with
yeah.
the majority of the time.
Especially when you're older, in your 30s and 40s, like that guy's not changing. That woman's not changing. Like you are, for the most part, who you are. I mean, you can go to therapy, you can alter your behavior a little bit, but I think if fundamentally he's like that and he's doing that every night, I would run.
That's too much. It's too
Too
much.
much.
Yeah. No, yeah. Let's go to well, before we go to our last question, I heard you have a new book coming out. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah. So I have written exclusively personal development, specifically for women entrepreneurs. That's always been like my thing, my genre, mindset books. And I knew that I wanted to do a dating book just because my experience has just been so wild and out of control. And I always have these funny stories. And I thought, I want to put this into a book, but I don't want to give advice because I don't think I'm qualified to give dating advice. I'm still figuring it all out.
Well, now you've been on the Ask a Matchmaker podcast.
True. I've answered
some really
some
good
questions.
dating advice today.
I mean, listen, I believe in giving advice to women and being more confident, asking for what you want, boundaries, all that. But I also have all of these like, hilariously funny stories.
Yeah.
And also a lot of stories that have helped me like realize myself and who I am. And like, I think dating is the best way to get to know who you are because you're just up against so many different personalities. You start to figure out what you want, what you don't want. So I decided to write a book. It's a collection of essays and it's funny. It's called Don't Do Anything I Would Do instead of Don't Do Anything I Wouldn't Do.
I love that.
So yeah, it's kind of like the anti-advice
When does it
book.
come out?
Hopefully by the end of the year.
Oh my God, I can't wait to read
Still working on it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
gonna be
all the
great.
good stuff is on the blog. So if anybody wants to check it out, they can just go to the blog.
And the blog's link is in the show notes. So if you want to check out Cara's blog, The Champagne Diet, which I love, go to the show notes and check it out. All right, let's go to our last question.
Hi, Matchmaker Maria. It's Joanne, and I'm from Toronto, Canada, and am 31 years old. Here's my question for you. A friend and I, who have been friends for 13 years and have previously had romantic entanglements, but have never really been after that single at the same time. And there's always sort of been this will there, won't there be a relationship sort of thing. We've just never been single at the same time. Now we are single at the same time and we've set a date, which is really exciting. I'm wondering what your suggestion would be for a really fun date in the city to go on that will sort of ease the potential transition from being friends to being potentially more than friends. I'm just anticipating a little bit of awkwardness because of the fact that we've both sort of expressed these feelings, and how do we sort of handle that in a way that's respectful, but also cuts through the awkwardness.
When she says entanglements, like, do you think
I love that word.
They've been flirting, or do you think they've like fucked?
I think no, because she said it's been awkward. So it wouldn't be awkward if you fuck somebody.
Right.
Like I want to be like, go get a hotel room for the weekend, get like a bottle of wine, like just have fun, like let it out.
I hope that happens for her. But let me tell you, I have a terrifying story.
Okay.
Where I used to flirt with this guy back in college, but whenever I was single, he was in a relationship. Whenever he was single, I was in a relationship. So it was just like, not really happening, right? And then, I moved to New York, blah, blah, blah. We're both finally single. And this person lived in Europe. I think he lived in Ireland. Okay. And he was like, oh, I'm here for a conference. Do you want to meet up? And I was like, yes. And by the way, I am single. And he's like, oh, then let's just meet at this hotel. Like the hotel he was staying. And I was like, on my way. Like I was so excited. Yeah. And yes, I would totally do that. Like the
tension has been building for 13 years. Like, you like each other.
Wear the sexy lingerie, put on the trench coat.
No Spanx.
Huh?
No Spanx.
No Spanx. I mean, you could. You know what? As someone who's obsessed with the show Broad City, Ilana Glazer wore Spanx in one of those episodes, and she was like, "Oh, it feels so sexy." And you know what? Like, Spanx is sexy.
Okay,
Therapy Spanx.
bring it back.
Hashtag therapy Spanx. Anyway, so I'm saying, like, wear the cute lingerie that you feel sexy in, wear the trench coat, show up at the hotel, and just bang it out. And now I did that with this person, but we never banged.
Oh no, he couldn't get it up.
No, he was fine. It's just I think he thought because I'm like a pretty assertive personality that I'd be like really assertive in bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, like I'm not gonna do what you think I'm gonna do here. You know, like it was just like
you weren't sexually compatible.
Not at all.
Okay. It happens.
Not at all.
That happened. So find out now.
So we just, you know,
Yeah.
we just masturbated each other, and that was.
I love your terminology.
What?
I love your terminology.
I mean, that's what we did. And it was just like 5 years of tension. I was just like, are you kidding me? Like for 5 years? Like
sometimes it's just not a match. I mean, it's really tough, as you know, as a matchmaker, to find somebody that you actually like, that you can stand, that you're attracted to, that you can have good sex with. It's like a lot of things.
I think about this story. So someone asked me on my Ask a Matchmaker Wednesdays, like, they happen to be Greek Orthodox, which is the religion that I practice, and that they're like abstaining until marriage. And no judgment, like by all means, please, if that's something you want to do it. Although virginity is a social construct. But anyway, and I was like, wow, I didn't know we did that in my religion. That's not something that has ever really been preached. But okay. And then also like, what? Like my immediate thought was like, what happens if it's the Irish guy in the Hilton Hotel?
Right.
You know, like.
Not a Hilton.
Like
a Hilton?
That's where that's where they put him. He was at a conference.
Oh, okay.
You know, come on. This is 2010.
Fine.
We'll
give him a pass.
We give him a pass. Girl, we were in our early 20s. Like
it's fine. It's fine.
Okay?
It's true. I forget you're married and the whole thing. Like,
yeah. So anyway, so I always think about like, oh my God, what if you fall in love, and what if you like wait that long? You wait 2 years or whatever. You wait a year. You wait 6 months. And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, it's not even that you're sexually compatible. It's that you don't even have the vocabulary to communicate to become. Like, I think if I really loved this guy and we were dating, we would have figured it out. I think it's just been so long, 5 years. And like, oh, you don't even live in this country. Like, nothing is going to happen from this. We're just getting some sexual tension out. But like, I just think about it. It's like,
but can you just figure it out? That's a good question.
I think you can. I think great sex the first time is insanely rare.
It is rare, but I think by the second or third time, you know.
I think if he can get you off and you can give him I feel like you have to give him 6 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like you have to be coming in those periods.
Right.
Like.
But can you if you're not into it? See, that's like a whole
No,
other
if
thing.
you're not into it. No. So I'm not using the right language. If you're both into making it work, I would give it 6 weeks to like figure out your emotions.
Right.
But if you're not into it, then you're not into it.
That's the thing. Like, I think that's what I've noticed. Like with some people, it's like they could be the greatest person, but there's just
I think that specific person, it didn't work out because I think our pheromones were off too. I was just
that's a thing.
Like I've never smelled you this close.
Yeah.
This is not going to work.
That's why online dating doesn't work for me.
Because you need to hear you need to feel.
I need to feel your energy, like in person. Like I want,
Tell me what you do to meet new men.
I go out with friends. Like everyone that I have met recently has just been through a friend.
Okay.
So somebody will say, "Hey, come to this bar, come to this whatever." Like I met somebody like who came to my birthday party that a friend brought. Like so you just have to be open and just.
But what do you do about people that are like distracted with their cell phones
when they're out?
Yeah.
I mean,
like, do you approach guys at the bar?
No. I mean, listen, if a group of my girlfriends are out, like we all start talking to a group of guys, for sure. But it's normally just like groups of friends that like know somebody. It's like a friend of a friend.
This is my favorite. That's how I met my husband.
Yeah, it's the best way.
This is my favorite way to meet someone.
It's the best way.
Yeah, because you have your values aligned immediately.
Right.
Like, it's like, we belong to this little group. Like,
exactly. You know that you have something in common. Like maybe you met through like a mutual friend who goes to like see a band play, or there's like something there that's like connecting you to them.
Yeah.
And
that's they're vouched for.
Yeah.
I hope.
Those have been the most successful relationships that I've had, or at least the coolest people that I've met.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
The online thing is,
well, Cara, where can people find you?
So I am on Instagram. I'm at The Champagne Diet.
I know. Oh my God, it's so much fun.
So easy to find me. Like I'm everywhere. My podcast is called Style Your Mind, and the blog, which you'll link in the show notes, is the best way to keep up.
I will include a link to your podcast too, because your podcast is so interesting to me. I love listening to it as a woman entrepreneur because it's really empowering.
Thank you.
And you also get like really vulnerable. Like
Yeah.
when you talk about your divorce and like you just talk about all these things, I'm just like, wow, this is like really, I feel like it's a little bit different than what my usual listening to.
Yeah. I do
so
a lot
like
of
it
solo pods.
Yeah, you do. That's what I'm saying. Like you do a lot more solo, which I don't think I listen. Maybe Dan Savage. Like there's not a lot of solo pods out there.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, Cara, thanks for coming to the Ask a Matchmaker podcast.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
And of course, if you want to follow Cara, look at the show notes for blog, her upcoming book. And of course, if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe. Be lovable, but more importantly, be likable. See you next week.